Time's up. I've grown.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Paul also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for why you can, monk boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Al.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome to another Saturday Night Drive-In, where we sit back, take a break from the bullshit of the week, and enjoy discussing good movies. Most of the time. Sometimes we drop a brick here and there, but more often than not, we have a good time. And I'm joined, as always, by Jed, the Hollywood scholar. Jed, we've already spent enough time together today, so let's make this one quick.
Yeah, this might be the truest time I've ever said. Long time no see. This might be the truest it's ever been. A whole hour without you is unbearable.
I know. What will we ever do? We'll move on. That's what we'll do. Anyway, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about this movie because there's been a lot of discourse about it online. We thought we might take advantage of that, and I'd never seen it before. So.
Oh, you hadn't seen it before? I didn't see. Sometimes I know you've seen something, and I don't, and I know you haven't seen something. I didn't know you hadn't seen this one.
It's just best to assume I haven't seen any of these movies, as the default.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched this movie for 20 plus years. It's been off and on. I don't own it, but I don't. It should be on my shelf at some point. I've just gone around to it. Now, if you're going to talk about Starship Troopers, we only talk about the original. We don't talk about the second one and the third one. They are generally disregarded. The second one is, I don't even know what to call it. And the third one is just fucking weird. It's at one point giant walking mechs where they're in it. They're digitally. I can't even explain
Pacific Rim.
And not even that. It's not even that. It's weird. When you say Starship Troopers, you just mean Starship Troopers. And maybe the cartoon. There was a CGI cartoon in the late 90s, early 2000s that was not connected to the movie, but set in the same universe that are retelling. It was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was one of those Sunday morning cartoons. It wasn't good enough to be on Saturday morning. It was on Sunday morning. But yes, we're here to talk. We are here to take advantage of the Starship Troopers algorithm this week. Plain and simple. That is the reason we're doing this. Not just because it's a fun movie, but because it's in the zeitgeist right now. So we're going to talk some Starship Troopers. And hail and howdy to the chat. Across all chats, both on here on my channel and on Jed's channel. We hope you guys enjoy the rest of the show. Hit those like buttons. Talk amongst yourselves in the chat. Because generally, for the regulars know, we don't generally interact with you guys during this stream unless you ask us something directly that forces us to. Wink, wink. Otherwise we just talk to ourselves and our guests. And I will reply to this. Yes, there is obviously the question mark. The Mario box means we never know who the guest is. It also means we don't have a permanent third panelist yet. We're hoping to rectify that in the future, but right now it's just us. So suck it up and live with it. Anyway, how are we doing? Let's get into Starship Troopers 1997. This is the definition of a cult classic because this came out, flopped hard. I'm pretty sure I remember it flopping hard. 1997. People were not really into this. It gets to home movie release, and boom, it takes off. It finds its place in pop culture history because this thing has a place in pop culture history. It is in the permanent zeitgeist. Is that? I think I'm pretty fair saying that.
Oh, absolutely. This is a film similar to Monty Python, Search for the Holy Grail, that I knew a lot of the lines from it just through osmosis for years, or images, or costumes. There were so many things about this film that for years I've been able to just see and know it's Starship Troopers. Like, I've never seen the film, but it's so ingrained in our culture. The bugs. I was able to recognize a lot of it. And I actually have some interesting observations, at least to me, they're interesting about Starship Troopers. But yeah, in terms of it being a cult classic, absolutely. It was recognizable to me before I'd even seen the trailer, before I knew who was in it. Like, it surprised me that Neil Patrick Harris was in it, but I knew some of Neil Patrick's lines.
Oh, it's afraid. It's afraid. That's like his most famous line in the movie. Funny thing is, years ago when it first came out, I didn't see it in the theaters. People who I went to high school with, we weren't really into going to see it. But then when it hit TV, it was years on television before, and I never actually rented it. I've only ever saw it on TV all the years around. It was a long time before I actually saw the first half of the movie. For the longest time, I always seemed to pick it up after basic training. And then that's when I would always find it. It was a long time before I actually ended up watching it from the beginning, either because somebody had it and we watched it, or I caught it on TV. And then I watched the sequels and I was sad that I watched it. But
I do need to clarify in chat. I'm not saying it's the same style or quality of Monty Python. I'm not saying that at all. Just the fact that I knew so much of it going into it already. That's all I was saying.
These things you know.
Yes.
Listen, people will know more about Monty Python and the Quest of the Holy Grail because of its place in the zeitgeist, to use your example, before you even watch the movie.
Absolutely.
So that it's one of those things that it's there, it's prevalent, it's never going away because it has a permanent fixture in pop culture, and with good reason. Because Jen and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. I'm going to say this now because you guys know how we roll here. We are objective as we review these films. We give a full review. We don't simply give into the enjoyment. We try to actually talk about what works and what doesn't work. This is a fun movie. I always enjoy it. And I will say I always enjoy it more from the second half on, about midway through the second act. But this movie does have tonal problems. It does have structure problems and pacing problems and acting problems. Let's be honest. While there are many great actors like Michael Ironside, I love Michael Ironside in everything. And you got Clancy Brown. You got Clancy freaking Brown, and a lot of other actors, and but the younger cast, most of them are kind of rough. I mean, Denise Richards has never been a good actress. She's been in movies because she was pretty and had big tits. That's why she was in movies. Dina Meyer is a good actress and is also hot. So you got that. Casper Van Diem, he didn't do much else. He did not do much else. There's nothing I remember. And then you got other great standbys. Jake freaking Busey. Jake Busey is a stalwart, standard character actor. Always plays the crazy, just like his dad. I mean, it must run in the blood to play crazy. So you got Jake Busey. You got a lot of good character actors throughout this whole thing, but there is good and then there's mediocre in terms of the acting. The dialogue, especially in the first half of the movie, can be a little stiff. Can be a little thick, a little, as Jed's going to want to point out, a little attempted parody. And we're going to get into the whole parody aspect because that's That's one of the things about this movie. I mean, Jed, the director, what the hell's his name? What the frick's his name? Hang on.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
I got it right here. I got it right here. Paul Verhoeven. Paul Verhoeven. What do we know about Paul Verhoeven?
Well, the primary thing I know about him is he intended this film to be a parody, and he seems to be quite upset that people didn't get that out of it, and is entirely upset that people relate to the main characters, that they support the main character's cause, and are anti-bug, which is really weird to me considering this film. So if it is supposed to be parody, it fails so hard at it. And there are a few moments that I'm getting, not necessarily parody, but commentary. There is political commentary in this film, from
definitely.
references to the Iraq War, to references about some political systems with Yahtzee uniforms showing up later on. Like, there's some very ham-fisted stuff. And if this were really just intended to be a turn your brain off enjoyment film, and if that's what people perceived it as, I wouldn't have many thoughts about this movie, because if it was just a dumb, fun, turn your brain off action film, then it would succeed at what it was trying to be.
But Verhoeven tries to tell us otherwise whenever he's asked about this.
Exactly. And there are so many people I know who read so much into it and act like it's some masterclass in writing, and that there's so many levels to it and it's intriguing. I kid you not, someone told me this movie was deeper than the film Inception.
In Inception, a movie specifically made to mind fuck you?
Yes. So there's just been so much around this movie that there's no consensus I can see whether or not is it supposed to be, is it received as a turn your brain off action film, or is it received and intended to be a parody, or what? There's so much contradiction there that it was confusing for me to get the pulse on what everyone was responding to. I have my opinions on the actual film based on seeing it and where I believe it ends up in there, but the discourse around it is complicated, to say the least.
And that's the thing. I enjoy this movie as a B science fiction movie. I enjoy watching space marines kill bugs. That's what I enjoy in this movie.
That part is great. So it's a lot of fun.
I mean, let's be honest. The CGI of its time still holds up.
Oh, absolutely! I was shocked at how
there's a
good
good
the bugs
mix
look.
of practical effects too when they shove it in there. But and also I enjoy the character work. I mean, they may be trying to tell us that these characters shouldn't be. You know what? That's the problem here. Then Paul Verhoeven wants to tell us that we shouldn't relate to these characters. I relate to all these characters. Every single one.
I think that's the best part of the movie. The action I loved, but I liked every single character except for the girlfriend, the pilot.
Carmen.
I have strong feelings about Carmen when we get there.
We'll go down the character list.
We'll go down there. But the characters are really strong. The action was really strong. The acting was hit or miss, but the plot is subpar. It's just, at the end of the day, the writing behind this and the direction behind it was subpar.
But it shouldn't. The plot should be just as simple that it is. Bugs attack, kill bugs, find a way to kill bugs better.
If that was what all it was, that would be fine. But he tried to add in so much more. That's as simple as this
plot needs to be. That's all I ever get out of it. Bugs attack, kill bugs. Bugs smarter than we thought. Let's find a better way to kill bugs. And here's one of the things I do find stupid in terms of the human behavior, in terms of the military conflict, is after they learn that the bugs are smarter than they thought they were, they still line up their ships just to get shot down by the artillery.
All right.
I have a problem with this.
So later on in the film, when they set the trap for them, that is 100% evidence of superior intelligence with the bugs, above what they expected to find.
Yeah.
But the initial assault, there's no evidence of actual planning on the bugs' part. The humans underestimated the bugs' numbers. That is how they lost, is the bugs just overwhelmed them with numbers.
Well, they attacked their homeworld, which was
really dumb.
That's bad strategy. Yeah.
But they're like, wow, there was millions more bugs than we expected. They must be smarter than we thought. No, you just thought there was less of them. You're just dumber than you thought you were. Not that they were smarter.
Their intel, they didn't think they were smart, but then because they thought that the plasma blasts from the artillery were just random, but then quickly they were targeting the capital ships. Or not,
which doesn't make sense, but it's still not indicative of intelligence. There are animalistic endeavors that like pack hunting, like none of that screams, oh my god, these things have human-like intelligence. Setting the trap, that does. That later on is like, oh yeah, there's definitely something smarter going on here. But they're like, wow, they had lots of bugs. They must be smart. No, the humans just came off as incredibly retarded.
I think it was retarded. Then I think it was also based. I think the smart thing lays in the fact that the artillery started shooting down the ships, even though they thought the bugs were stupid. But either way, it was
How
bad
do
strategy.
bugs have space cannons in their butts? How did they load up in asteroids? How do asteroids go across the entire galaxy in a year?
That's a problem where whoever I never read the book that this is based on, and apparently the book is very different from the movie. Whoever adapted this for the movie, working on it, they didn't set down rules for the science fiction, for the science in the science fiction. And that's kind of a thing we talk about all the time when it comes to world building. You need to set the rules.
Internal consistency.
Yeah. And some of the rules in the movie are there, but then some of them aren't. And one of them that isn't there is, first of all, do we even know what year this is in Earth calendar?
No. Well, we don't know a whole lot of what's going on. That even basic definitions that are carried over from what we know to be fact aren't used correctly, like nukes. Those are baby ass nukes. That's not how nukes behave.
Those are like mini tactical nukes.
Yeah, no,
I think they're just calling them a nuke. I think
those are way too small for nukes. They're used in close proximity to people. There's no radiation, so there are some nukes that have minimal radiation, but it's still like even those basic things that they carry over from our current vernacular is.
I would kind of think that those are just high powered weapons. They're just calling them nukes because
it's the naming convention. If you just called it something else, it'd be totally fine.
I mean, here's the thing: in gaming, all the time we say nuke that shit. You know, we're gonna nuke this shit, and that just means deliver heavy artillery or heavy amount of damage. Let's burn it down. Let's nuke it. And again, this is '97, so vernacular is a little different going all the way back there. But once again, let's set the rules. And at one point, they do fire off the nuke, and you see a mushroom cloud. At one point. So there's a lot of evidence to say they are nukes. Then one could say, well, maybe it's not quite a nuke. Maybe they're just saying they're calling it a nuke because it's they're heavy artillery for the mobile infantry. I don't know, but most of the time I'm okay turning my brain off because I am honestly here to watch this movie to watch them kill bugs. I'm here to watch them kill bugs. That's what I'm here to do, and to see occasional booby. Because the boobies happen.
Yes, that was surprising. I didn't know this was rated R. I didn't know there were going to be boobs. Yes, I was pleasantly surprised.
I knew. I remember, and I remember very well.
So, while we're talking about the plot, there's something that I wanted to bring up. Is yes, I have a lot of problems with the plot, but the basic plot is from something else. I don't think you've read the book, but
no. Yeah.
The basic world building, not the government or anything like that. This is Ender's Game. I'm not kidding. It's like the fact that they call them bugs, the multiple invasions, the bugs coming here first, then the humans following and attacking the homeworld. Like, it's Ender's Game. Like, there's so much in this film that I was like, oh yeah, whoever made up this story was a huge fan of Ender's Game because even scenes reminded me of Ender's Game. It was absolutely a action ripoff of Ender's Game, which was surprising. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I've never heard anyone talk about that before. But it's definitely Ender's Game.
I've only seen the bad movie, so I can't take your word for it.
Yeah, no, the book
movie
wasn't
good.
Probably one of my favorite books. I've read it a couple dozen times growing up.
I knew a dude in college who would rave about Ender's Game, about the entire series. And I just let him go on because I didn't care. It's one of those things like, yeah, okay, I don't care.
Well, I only read a couple of the other ones, and they're not as good. Yeah, there's one Ender's Game for me. There's one thing in that universe.
Well, either way, like you said, some people swear by this movie. I've been watching this movie for a lot of years, and I just simply enjoy it for its essential action movie essence. That's what I enjoy this movie. To talk about, the plot. My biggest problems with the plot are in the first half of the movie, with the origins everywhere. I mean, we know by now. Everybody knows I'm not a big fan of in medias res, starting in the middle of something. I'm not a fan of that, but I get through that because I've seen it before, so I was able to just put it in its place. But the whole everybody in high school, or I don't know what it is. They called it education center, which of course is part of the commentary that it's a fascistic government. I don't know. It here's the thing. Here's the problem going back to the parody, and we're going to talk about this. Let's talk about story a bit, and then we'll get to the characters as we go along. Something about having citizenship and then only citizens are allowed to vote. I'm kind of okay with that. It means you got skin in the game. I don't have a problem with that concept. And if you earn your citizenship by actually serving in the military, or however other ways there were to earn it, they didn't really dig into how other ways one could earn citizenship. But if you do that kind of thing, that listen, Jed, you served in the military. I would have been disqualified from the military because of my eyes and my flat feet. I would have been disqualified probably if I had tried to enlist. But despite the fact that I'm a damn good shot, I would have, if I had anything, I would have wanted either pilot or a sniper, because I got the reflexes and I just have the eye-hand coordination for sniper, for shooting. I had that natural breathing that kind of just nail it. I mean, I was shooting since I was like 7 years old, and I was taught to use weapons responsibly from that age up. So I spent a lot of years around firearms. So, but I see nothing wrong with earning citizenship that way, and then your vote only counts. Your citizenship, you only matter then, because they try to make a big deal about how it's somehow wrong to do it.
That is definitely part of the commentary, and a lot of countries do that today, where it's not necessarily you get to vote because you were in the military, but military service is required. Like Israel, as far as I know, still does that.
They do.
I mean, what's her bucket? Gal Gadot was in the Israeli army, and so
boss me around anytime.
I don't necessarily agree with that myself, but I can see definite benefits from requiring military service.
Makes sense in the movie, though.
It does make a lot of sense in the movie, especially with the threats, and it does harken back, not in the exact same way, but there being qualifications to vote. In the original, early stages of the U.S. government, you had to own land. Yeah, land ownership. And of course, modern people make certain political, racial, and sexual arguments from that. But in and of itself, that idea of having to have property to vote is an interesting one that could be justifiable in certain instances. So just qualifications to vote is fascinating. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but it's enough of it's justifiable enough that I don't think that this government is fascistic because they do it. Other things they do, sure, but
it rolls back to the whole attempted parody or attempted political commentary that it fails in what it's doing, because I would say most people who watch this movie and really enjoy it kind of lean towards, I would think that somebody should have some level of responsibility and ownership of the nation they live in, or the federation live in, to then contribute to it. You've earned your right. This earning something, meritocracy. It kind of rings true to a lot of the things that we as free thinkers these days believe in. And back then, to make that kind of commentary, maybe it worked back then, but right now, I hate to use this, but through a more current day perspective, and I'm trying not to be ironic saying that, it kind of falls apart. And also, the same time that you have, and here's the funny thing, Michael Ironside's character, let me pronounce his last name right here, the character's name, I'm gonna get it right, Razak, when he's just a teacher in the school, he's not brainwashing anybody there. All he's telling them to do is to think for yourself and make your own decisions.
Well, the best scene for that is when Rico goes to ask him for advice of whether or not to join the military. He doesn't tell him to do it. So it's absolutely not brainwashed on the part of the teacher.
So I'm trying to find out. So knowing what I know in the here and the now, going to the movie with all the commentary, because back in the day, this commentary, there was no real internet back then. Internet was in its infant stages. We didn't have this kind of discourse. We just said, all right, Marines shooting bugs. Yeah, that's what we were into. Now it's, he means this and that. The director's talking. Oh, this is what directors are saying, because everybody with a moronic brain in there once again on X Twitter and try and pretend they know what the fuck they're talking about. And Biggles with a 9-month super chat, members chat on Jed's channel. He would like to know more.
He would like to know more.
Well, Biggles, you have clicked on the links today, and you are learning more.
Now, see, I talking about this parody, what he's referencing there, the like to know more, the perception of the media in this movie is counterproductive to the message that the director wants to send. If it's supposed to be some modern day connection, commentary, the modern media isn't known for brutal honesty with the facts. Like, yes, the Starship universe, it's propagandized, but they tell the people what's happening. You see the dead bodies, like they show you actual stuff to a brutal extent. And yes, of course, they're using it to emotionally manipulate you, but that's a very different style than
when you just saw an entire section of a continent get blasted by an asteroid. You don't need much convincing.
No, you don't really need a whole lot. That's kind of good justification to be like, maybe we should fight these guys. They're coming for us.
Maybe we should kill some bugs. Thank you, Biggles, for sending that member chat.
Those commercials are fun and a good part of the story, even though they kind of hurt the story progression.
It breaks the narrative at awkward points. Let's be honest.
It does. They're fun, but they're inserted badly. The starting one is the only one that I would say is good, even though it is starting the story in the middle. You don't like.
One of the things I do appreciate in the movie is that this is a movie that is filled with consequences for actions. It's all over the place. Even the leader, this first Sky Marshal, he resigns because he fucked up. And then the new one takes over. Now, back in the day, we didn't blink. Oh, it's a fat black woman that's going to take over. Now we don't care anymore. Back then we didn't care. Now, if that had been made today, we'd all be going like this. Oh God, of course a woman's going to take over for the white man. Now, back then it didn't matter because we didn't think about that kind of stuff in 1997.
It probably wasn't the point.
It wasn't the point. I can guarantee back then never crossed our minds when we saw it that a black woman's taking over the white man that failed. Never enters our mind. Never once. Not even watching all the interplay where Dizzy is as active in the contact sports as the men never crosses our mind because you know why? We're watching a science fiction movie set in the distant future.
Where there's definitely some superhuman abilities with all the flips, jumps, and spins they all do.
Lot. These are definitely humanity is advanced a little bit, and we know they have cybernetics because you see cybernetic arms and stuff like that. Michael Ironside has cybernetic arms. That's one of the best intros ever. When he walks in and he grips it, and you think, "Who's that?" It's like, "Oh shit, it's Resnick." Yes, and of course, as I said, if you are a Michael Ironside fan, Michael Ironside either plays a hard ass a good guy or a hard ass villain. It's one or the other. There's never an in between with Michael Ironside. It's either hard ass good guy, hard ass villain, and always supporting cast. He's never a main character. He's always supporting cast, but you love him because it's the same character, just good or bad. So what you see here in this movie is Michael Ironside in every single movie he's ever in, and it works, and we love him for it. Just like we love Clancy Brown in this too.
He's such a dick, but it's perfect.
I know, but that's perfect. Comes around the whole way. When the war begins, he wants to enlist, but his commanding officer says, "You can only enlist if you bust yourself down to private, and we need you here to train people." What did he do? He busted himself down to private so he could get in there and fight, and then he's the one that captures the brain bug at the end.
Yeah, they try to portray him as a villain through at least the first act up until
he's not, though.
Rico tries to leave. And that's what the impression I'd got before going in is people thought, oh yeah, this guy's a hard ass. And I mean, yeah, stabbing them, breaking their arms is exaggerated, but I mean, a lot of basic training is over the top. A lot of basic training is meant to prepare you for the worst to come. And he definitely prepares them.
And in that reality, in that world, they can obviously heal those wounds instantly with their medical technology. I mean, you see Rico getting his thigh rebuilt when he's in the fake
injuries are a lot less impactful. As long as you survive, you're probably
except
gonna be
unless you get shot in the head, then you're done.
Yeah,
like that poor son of a bitch during the training exercise.
And that was another example of it. Is great consequences.
Yeah,
like
we talk about consequences. And that circles back because in that moment when Rico's going to get his 10 lashes, Clancy Brown's character says, "Bite down on the sun. It'll help. Trust me. I know." Which means he went through it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's being sympathetic right there, saying, "You're being a man by stepping up for this, but here, there's no shame in not breaking your teeth and biting through your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shame in that." And the character work is great, and there are consequences everywhere, including physical and emotional consequences. I mean, look at what happens to Rico. Let's start with the characters then. Rico, our main protagonist in this,
Yeah.
is aimless. He's doing everything for the pussy. Let's be honest. His entire motivations are for that sweet, sweet Denise Richards pussy. And he gets that on the night after the dance, then after prom, but his motivations are all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he pays the consequences there because, I made squad leader. Well, guess what? You were sloppy and somebody died in basic training because you're an idiot. And he pays for it. And then there are consequences later on. But then again, when I caught myself 3 times prior to that.
Really?
3 times I caught myself realizing I was about to do it, and I weaved my way around it. But here we are again.
Again. Huh?
Again. Oh my goodness. If I'm gonna make emojis for new emojis for the channel, I need to make an again emoji.
Mm-hmm. That would be a good one.
I need to make someone needs to make me an again emoji, because I think with the latest amount of members, I have qualified for a new emoji. So if anybody out there wants to make me an again emoji, let me know. And let me know, and we'll make that happen.
Well, while we're talking about Rico, because I think it
Yeah.
has the most impact on his character, but before we get too far away from the plot, is I had an issue figuring out the passage of time, and we talk about this a lot. Passage of time is important. We know at least there's a year between the prom and the initial invasion.
Yeah.
But is there a lot more time between that event and the brain getting discovered at the end? I was a little unclear because going up that much.
No, there
isn't.
There isn't, because look at his battle damage on his face. You can see it as his scars heal on his cheek, and they're still raw when he gets promoted after battle damage.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's corporal, and then he's lieutenant, and then he's sergeant, then he's lieutenant, and the scar is still there when they get reinforced with cadets. So it's really only been a short amount of time after he joins the Roughnecks with Dizzy.
Okay, and then that's a problem for logic-wise, at least for me, because there's no way he would get promoted that high that quickly.
It was field commotion. It's field commotion. Field commission. God damn it.
Which can only do so much, and people have to have authority to do it. The people who gave him lieutenant definitely wouldn't have the authority.
Guess
the general would, but
I think I once more, it's about setting the rules, and with the way it looks like the mobile infantry is organized, whoever is highest ranking on the ground has that authority, it would seem, especially when they're within their own platoon.
It just happened so fast that I'm like, oh, he's another rank. Oh, he's another rank.
But at that point, he had earned it. See, that's the difference. He leveled up at that point, and he's not the fuck up anymore. And his motivations are different. Now, whether you agree it's good motivation or not, revenge is a damn good reason to want to get serious about being.
It does drive you to excel, and it makes sense for his character.
Yeah, and it works. Because at that point, it's like, screw you, Carmen. You ditched me to go screw your flyboy boyfriend. That's what she did.
Yeah.
She ditched him so she could screw that dude. That's plain and simple. It's plain and simple. And Rico has a great progression because he goes from being a boy to being a man and earning the respect, and watching how he earns that respect by being a good commander, by having that. And it's offset by basically what is Carmen really earning. You have thoughts on Carmen besides Denise Richards' poor acting?
Besides the acting, yeah, there's some inconsistencies I find with it. She's not all that deep as a character.
No.
And there's just a constant fluffing of her that contradicts what we established early on. So unlike Rico, who made a lot of mistakes early on and learned from them and evolved, she was at the very beginning, it's implied she might not have the stomach to make a good pilot. There's maybe some grit that she needs to develop. And then throughout the entire, what is that, first act, second act training year?
First act training. It's first act.
Yeah,
It's
first act
first
training.
act, yeah.
She's just suddenly, she's the best pilot ever. We're the best
She's
flight
crazy.
team. She's great.
Crazy.
And I'm sorry. I know enough about how big space is and how good those scanners are that she should be fired from piloting anything ever again if she didn't realize an asteroid 3 times the size of the ship was right
How
outside.
did you not see that?
So
I mean,
yeah, that is
They got viewports.
incompetence.
This isn't sensor scanner reading flying. Giant ass viewport
Just
where you can see
just
things.
see it. So yeah,
But
that
she
is
was too
that's-
busy flirting with Jack Hole sitting
But
next
that-
to her.
she has no consequences for that. If there were consequences in that scene, I'd be all okay with it. Just like Rico, like his in basic training, he got the one guy
That's the
killed.
imbalance here of these characters. Rico, excuse me, Rico has a full development character arc. Goes from zero motivation and being a screw up to taking it seriously, not being a screw up, and earning his way to his position and earning the respect of his peers. Carmen doesn't.
No,
Carmen,
she's just constantly praised by her captain. Her captain's like, "We're only alive because of the greatest pilot in the world." She was doing calculations on their course trajectory and making
Without
changes
permission.
without permission, which it probably didn't happen, but maybe that course correction could have been a reason why they were in the path of the asteroid to begin with. No consequences for that. And just because she forgot, she didn't see it coming, their communication array gets knocked out, and the city gets destroyed where they came from, Buenos Aires, and all those people die. That would be a consequence. It's like, man, if I had paid attention to the sensors, if I wasn't so busy flirting, I might have been able to see this asteroid sooner, gotten far enough away that we could communicate and tell Earth that it was coming and save all those lives. But she never thinks about that. The story never thinks about that. The captain never once questions that she's the bestest ever. And it's sad that she never gets a moment to really evolve.
grow. Yeah, she doesn't.
She
grow,
doesn't grow. The closest character arc that I would say is she nearly throws up dissecting a bug, and then she's the bestest ever. That's about the extent of her character development.
I kind of wish she'd been using gloves during that too, because goddamn.
Oh yeah, the gloves. That was a problem.
No, put some gloves on before you reach into that thing, man.
That is a problem.
No. As a chef, man, I my hands have to be clean, and I don't touch raw meat without gloves on.
No, yeah, you shouldn't.
I don't. It's disgusting. But yeah, so Rico, great. There's a perfect dichotomy there of Rico, great character development movie, no complaints. Carmen, horrible character development. And the only reason we save it is because Denise Richard has nice tits.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And that's why, let's be honest, in the late 90s, that's why she was in any movie she was in, because she had nice tits. Very simple. Yeah, very simple shows. As opposed to Dina Mayer, who was equally as hot, but doesn't have as big boobs, but Dizzy's a great character.
She's the
great.
superior character.
That's why I'm going to say right now, Dizzy greater than Carmen.
Absolutely.
If I'm choosing a waifu from this one, I'm choosing Dizzy.
And it's in every aspect. She's the more attractive woman, in my opinion. She's got the better personality. She's way more loyal and trusting. Her motivations aren't selfish. She's got all the tenets of a great partner.
And I'll be honest, looking today, Adina Mayer has held up way better than Denise Richards. Hey, guys, I'm on brand. We know what I'm doing here. I'm on brand. Yes, Dizzy greater than Carmen. Like you said, the loyalty aspect. Always in love with Johnny. Even though it is kind of sad, there is that parallel moment when Johnny asks Carmen to say I love you, and she says it but doesn't mean it. Dizzy says I love you, but he doesn't say it back. Because he wasn't. I think he would have gotten there, but he wasn't there yet. And
he probably regrets it too, because how she ends up.
Here's that moment. I mean, first of all, did you see her death coming?
At that point, I realized that most people were going to die, so I expected it by that point in the film.
Okay.
What I didn't expect is how dumb she was.
Don't celebrate. Don't celebrate.
Exactly. Especially in a moment like that.
Victory
Like
dance.
there are situations where a victory dance is okay if you've got some distance, you're clearly out of danger, but there's
Yeah, I
still a
know.
godless horde of
The
bugs
evac
coming over
shuttle
those walls.
is just a few meters away. Keep going. Don't do the
Run,
victory
get
shuffle.
in it, and then celebrate once you're inside and away.
I mean, I hate it. This is one of those movies where I kind of hope every time I watch it, this one character doesn't die. I always hope that Dizzy doesn't die every time I watch this. It's just like I don't want Dizzy to die because she just got everything she wanted.
Yeah, it's true.
She got the man she loves. She's kicking ass and taking names.
And her commander was supportive. I love that scene where he
Yeah.
figures out that she's in bed with Rico and it's like, yeah, 20 minutes.
Well, you think about this. I think about like this. You're in a situation where you might die, and she does die 20 minutes later. Where you're about to die, dude, you're going to get a little bit. Enjoy the moment.
No.
Just let it happen.
Well, it was kind of funny. I was watching this with Dr. Rachel Lindbergh, and when that moment came when their commanding officer, the lieutenant, looked in and found out, she was in there and asked, who's that under there? It would have been the perfect moment to bring back the line the lieutenant told Rico earlier. He should have just said, a good thing, sir.
That's good writing. That's good writing. Good writing.
But shout out to Dr. Rachel for that one. I loved that when she said that.
But see, there it is. Dizzy has a great arc. Always there, always supporting, always watching, always trying to. But she doesn't force it. She earns her way.
Oh, absolutely.
Into his heart.
And she is a girl boss in the best sense. Like she 100% earns the violence that she's capable of, the action that she's capable of, as much as anything else. Just like you said, no one really questioned it in football.
You mentioned how she earns it when she takes on Clancy Brown in basic training. He beats the shit out of her.
Mm-hmm.
And you see later on the bruise on her neck from where he made her tap out and knocked her out, put her to sleep.
She didn't just overwhelm him. But she did better than the other guy did, which is a great part of showing, she has some competence, but she's still out of her depth.
A man 3 times her size did what a man 3 times her size with the better training should do. He demolished her in an appropriate way. And that's what modern day storytelling is missing for this stuff. They're missing the fact that it's okay to have a strong heroine. We like that. But sometimes they need to be shown that they can't overcome every situation by just being a girl boss.
Exactly.
The only time they could do that is, let's say, if Dizzy had superhuman strength. That would be different, but she doesn't. She's still basically a normal human being. And it's just a shame that she dies like that. And I hate it every time. And because I want Dizzy to live. Now she lives in the cartoon version. She's alive in that version. Yeah. Well, it's a different timeline, not the same timeline.
I wasn't aware that there was a book, so that would be the thing that I'd check out to see if, is she in it? Is there more development with her? Is there better writing with Carmen? Is the Ender's Game stuff in that, or was that taken for the film? Because apparently the book did come out before Ender's Game, the book. So where did that inspiration come from? Which direction? Was it just in the movie? Was it in the book? Like, I think I'm probably going to read the book now just because
I think
there's so much potential in this world building.
Frank Blazkowicz said earlier in the chat that it's a short book, so probably wouldn't be a long read then. Probably not knock it out. I'll rely on you for that because I'm not going to sit down and read a book right now. I can't even read my own books that I want to read for the channel. I'm not going to read rando books once we're past this. I'm sorry. Sorry! I have priorities. You guys want me to play video games, okay? That has to take priority. But Dizzy, great character. Jake Busey's Ace. Jake Busey does what Jake Busey does. Comes in, is the crazy guy a little bit, but then Ace has his own little mini arc. Tries to be squad leader.
He was such an asshole at first.
Yeah. But he gets people killed. And then he realizes later on, I don't want command. I'm just here to kill bugs. And that's as small a character arc as it is, character arc.
It's done very well. And there's a moment early on, like, you think he's a bully and just irredeemable. And if this were a modern story, he just would be, and they wouldn't explain it. And the depth wouldn't be there. But there's such a small moment with him when they're bullying Rico when right before he gets the Dear John letter. And then the Dear John part of that video starts to play. And they all just like, oh shit, we're not bullying anymore. Let's give him some space.
Yeah,
and you can see it. You can see it. There's a shot that I love. You see Rico's face, and in the background, out of focus, you can see Greg Busey's character just shake his head and look down like he feels for him. It's before the dialogue later, but
any dude bro knows exactly what's going on there. We've all had it happen, and it's like, oh,
that was when you knew, all right, he's not a bad guy. He's just being a dick at basic training. There's nothing wrong with that. I knew a lot of dicks when I went through basic training who turned out to be great guys, but there was that moment where you realized this is just a basic training thing. He could be a great friend to Rico.
And he is. And he is that dude in the trench that you want with you, who's got your back and who's gonna help you survive. And that's a great thing. They all help each other survive when you're not doing a victory dance and getting killed by a bug. Because then that's just every time, man. It's just, why are you doing it? Don't do the victory dance. It's a great moment. It's so cool. And that is good. That is good movie making right there. You have a sudden high and then a shocking low as one of your main characters just gets ganked mercilessly. And here's the thing. She might have survived if they hadn't pulled the bug's talon out of her.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking that the whole time. It's stopping the blood. Leave that spike in.
She had several stab wounds, but that was the one right here in the chest. If
that was going to be the kill shot.
Some emergency medical attention might. I mean, Rico survived that kind of damage.
Oh, he should not have survived that in a modern sense, but it seems like their technology for medicine is miracle. Once they get back to their base. So leave that in. She might live long enough.
That was the bonehead move. Dizzy might have survived if you hadn't pulled out that bug talon.
Absolutely.
That she would, because the other ones, emergency medical could have stopped the other two in the upper part of her chest, but the one in the middle of her chest, or in the leg, that would, God damn it.
Well, and they undercut the impact of getting stabbed by one of these things later. Like, what's her bucket? Carmen gets cleaved in half. Like, that thing goes down halfway to her sternum.
I don't think it cleaved. It went through, and they pulled her around.
You saw it down. Like, it was when she initially struck, it significantly sank in. And she should never be able to use that arm again. Like, it was through the shoulder cleanly, all the way to, like, her nipples. Like, all the way through.
Well, I should have been looking at her nipples.
She should never be able to use that arm again. She should have died immediately. But a minute later, while it's still in there, she's just like, I think they want us alive. It's like, no, you should be screaming in agony, passing out from shock. You're going to die from shock as much as
that's the problem. Right, Carmen gets the treatment of
I hate Carmen.
Plot armor. She gets plot
does.
armor.
Well, and another big problem I have with that sequence is the absolute coincidence of crashing onto a giant planet, crashes right next to Rico and right next to the brain bug.
Well, actually, no, that was Bug City. They were aiming at Bug City.
They were crash landing at that point.
I kind of feel is that whole area where they were orbiting was Bug City. So I'm going to give them a pass on that.
No, that's an entire planet.
Yeah, I know,
and if they were aiming for Bug City, you're in an emergency situation. There's two of you, low weapons. You're crashing. Yeah, let's try to get in the center of a massive infestation of bugs. So even if they were trying to go there, it was asinine.
I'm giving it a pass on that whole thing. Because we come back to the thing. I'm not much to say about Neil Patrick Harris as Carl. He's barely in the movie. There's only one important thing, and I wonder if anybody else catches this. When he's trying to do the psychic test for Rico gets one right. And Carl pretends he didn't get it right. So Rico does have some sensitivity, which is why Carl is able to direct him to where Carmen and the other dude are. And that's why it works.
That part was great setup and payoff. I definitely enjoyed that part because it was subtle. Like, it wasn't in your face. They didn't explain it to an unnecessary degree, but it was just the mere fact that she crash landed right in the most convenient spot possible on a planet.
I'm gonna give that one a pass because they were focused on Bug City. I'm gonna say it's within the vicinity, within the realm of reason. So I'm gonna give that one a pass. But that whole final sequence is really, I love that final sequence. The brain bug in the brain, and even Boy Toy, who stole Carmen from Rico, gets a good going out moment.
Absolutely,
man up moments like, one of these days, someone like me is gonna kill all you fucking bugs. It's like, and practical effect thing in the head. Ugh.
That scene was great, but it brought up a question about an earlier scene. Is when they were getting ready to have this trap sprung on them, they were in that abandoned base with everyone dead.
How did it get in there from that
little room? How did it
might have
fit in
been a
that
smaller one?
Maybe.
Or maybe. I don't know. It
They
does.
put it. They take him out to the courtyard and then put him back.
They showed you that the smaller bugs, the ones that are acting as the mobility for the brain bug, were in the room because Rico picks one up and looks at it, and then later on we see those are the ones that are basically carrying the brain bug. So I would assume there's more than one brain bug. There has to be.
And so you're assuming there's one that's significantly smaller.
And that wasn't the exact same area that they were in. That wasn't. They're not.
Yeah, I think it might have
planet.
been of a different planet. Yeah.
No, it was still Planet P, whatever they called it. It was still same planet because Rico was saying, "Let's glass this thing," and saying, "No. Command has other plans for this." That's why we say. That's why Carl says, "We're sorry you had to be the one to sit in there, but we had plans for this one." It's same planet, I think, different area. So probably I would just.
I could assume it's different one, but
I'm comfortable headcanoning smaller brain bug that was able to get into the room there and suck its brain out. But that the way it all culminates, the movie works. It's great, and that's that. Like as I said before, the second half of the movie, I have next to no problems with. It knows exactly what it is at this point. It's a war movie. We're attacking the bugs. We're getting revenge. We're trying to flush out how dangerous the bugs are. Is there a brain bug? Isn't there? Is there not a brain bug? We have the loss, the victory, the loss. I mean, that one mission where in the trap, Rico loses everything. He loses Razak, and he loses Dizzy, the man he most respected in the world, and the woman he could have fallen in love with. Yet he still mans up, and he keeps going. Come on, you apes!
Well, and he killed his mentor.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like that kind of line. I do it for you. You do it for me.
That was great setup and do. That was great setup and payoff, and that dialogue. We didn't need him to say, "You know what to do. I asked you to kill me," or like they didn't need a whole speech about explaining that setup from earlier. No, it's just like, you know what to do. Yeah,
half my body is missing. You know what to do. Put me out of my misery.
And that I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm sure the terribly done satire of the film, the director was like, "Oh yeah, it's bad that he wanted to die right there." And it's like, I don't blame him for shooting that guy earlier with the flying bug. I might not have done it, but I don't blame him for doing it. And I definitely don't blame him or Rico for having his death play out like that.
No.
But I'm sure that's some ham-fisted satire from the director.
No, it's appropriate, and it was set up, and it feels within the realm of these characters to do that.
Absolutely.
And it works. And Rico would make it clear to everybody else, I want you to do the same for me. I don't want to be bug food. I don't want to be brain food. And I don't want my brain sucked out. I don't want to be chewed apart, ripped apart.
Yeah.
It's a gift at that point. Because God, that's torture. I mean, dude, Razak had half his body ripped apart. There's no surviving that. He doesn't make it out of there. So Rico,
he would have bled out before they could get to the magic back tanks. It's not like he had a giant spike in his body to stop most of the bleeding.
I like that Rico just doesn't hesitate. Just yes, sir. Just goes, does it?
It was
does
great.
it. I don't know if I could have done it, but
that's probably one of my favorite arcs in the film, just because it's so little dialogue, but setup and payoff with show don't tell. Like all my favorite things of good writing are in that little arc right there. So there's definitely some great writing in this, as much as I have issues with the overall plot and some coincidences and moments. But there's some great quality to this film that I enjoyed it. I know I spent most of the stream criticizing this film, but I walked away enjoying myself, and I would rewatch this film absolutely.
Yeah. And it's got a great conclusion, because even though it spawns 2 sequels, I like the ending because it's open door. The war isn't over. And one of my favorite things ever, every time, is essentially the scientific torture they put the brain bug through. I love that. Where they stick the thing in the front and they censor it and it's going, I love that. It's what I laugh every time. I laugh because it's funny as hell. But great. And of course, then one of the most famous pop culture zeitgeist lines, "It's afraid." Recently, how many times have we seen that meme broken out in the recent year? Constantly. That it's a go-to meme. It's afraid. And this movie is, in the end, it's pop culturally relevant.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. Strip
Absolutely.
away our objective criticisms. It's still fun.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with sitting back and watching Marines mow down bugs. Hell, like you said, whether or not somebody read Ender's Game and then made the movie feel like Ender's Game, this has had influence. If anybody's ever played StarCraft, don't tell me you're watching the Zerg and not thinking bugs, because this movie came out before StarCraft. Somebody at Blizzard definitely watched Starship Troopers and thought, let's make the Zerg like the bugs. And you know what I like too? They have no name. They're just the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
No
Well, that's what it was
species,
like in the Ender's Game book. Initially, they were called the Buggers, and that was a big thing of dehumanizing them. And then the film, the Harrison Ford movie, decided to call them the Formax.
Really?
I think the sequels did that too, the sequel books. But yeah, it was supposed to be the Buggers. The Buggers is so much better than the Formax.
Well, either way, let's go. I'm happy because of bugs. And recently, there was a video game that came out that had a lot of interest. I kind of fell off a bit. I haven't heard much people talk about it. But now, in the current day, right now, the game Helldivers which is what stirred up a bunch of Starship Trooper discussions, because one of the enemies in the game are bugs, and I'm thinking, oh, we're killing bugs. All right, it's like Starship Troopers. And my thought is, but don't we have an actual Starship Troopers game right now where you kill bugs? Why isn't everybody playing that? I guess because it had bugs, and I'd say that not to be punny. It had its own game problems, which is why I kind of fell off. But either way, I didn't play the games. Those games are not my cup of tea. I can play them, but I don't really get a lot of enjoyment. I prefer role-playing games, action-adventure games, not just running into the masses and shooting and dying and all that kind of stuff, because that to me it loses its appeal very quickly. After
it doesn't have a whole lot of replay value.
After about a week of hardcore play, I'm kind of done, which is why I generally don't spend money on those games anymore, because I know my limit. And at the current price, it's not worth my time. Maybe someday in the future, because I know people we hang out with want me to play with them. They said, dude, you playing Helldivers? Nah, not playing it. Oh, man, you should play with us. But anyway. All right. Soundtrack has a cool theme. Theme is good when they're being victorious. It's about it. It's kind of it. There's nothing much else to it. We talked about special effects. They still hold up.
Absolutely.
They're good. And it's a good mix of late 90s CGI and practical effects, which I think is why it works. They found that good balance to make it feel real. And I saw the chat talking about it before. The gore is appropriate. I have no problem with the gore. The visceral destruction of the humans.
It helps sells it. Absolutely.
Yep. No, love it. All right, so there we go, guys. Starship Troopers. Jed, it was my movie, so I get to go first this week. I pretty much listed how I feel about this. First half is weak. Second half is strong when it finds its focus as just a science fiction action movie, not trying to be political, not trying to be a parody, when it's just at the core of what it should just be, a sci-fi action movie that's a lot of fun. I give it a 7.5 out of 10 because it always succeeds in entertaining me every time I watch it. And even though Carmen is a garbage character, Denise Richards still hot, Dina Meyer is still hot, and I like all the characters. I enjoy every single character, how they're played, even though Carmen is a whore. There, I said it. All right. Jed, what is your score for this week?
So, yeah, my thoughts on this it's very complicated. After I watched the film, I felt conflicted. I enjoyed myself immensely. There are significant issues with it that I believe bring down the quality that can never be more than a B action film. That is the most I think this could be. And all the discourse, especially the intended satire and parody, those elements were so poorly done that they are a detriment to the film, at least in my opinion. But there's so much potential with this story, with this type of universe, this world building, that I'm absolutely going to pick up the book now. So if nothing else, the movie succeeded in getting me to explore the rest of the universe, the rest of the franchise. But overall, with those issues that we've talked about at length, and the many cliches, the poor characters in some instances, and the plot that doesn't make sense, the internal or real world science that doesn't make sense, I'd have to give this a 6.5, and I feel like I'm being generous.
Okay. And be wary, if, like I said, if you watch Starship Troopers 2 and 3, just be wary.
Okay.
Be wary.
Well,
going in, you're going to have one of your bad reactions. I think if I'm saying,
if you're predicting it, that's
listen,
progress.
Rico doesn't come back till the third movie. Let's just say that. So no Rico in the second.
All right, he surprises me as a protagonist, the actor. Like he seems like the most generic white boy with the best jawline I could ever possibly imagine. But it works for this film. Like I don't think that actor could work in most other movies, but the camp in this one, the dumb fun action part of it, it works so very well. And his helmet works for him too.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it. Jed, what's on the docket for next week?
We will be watching a type of film that we've actually never done on Roundtable.
First musical.
Drive-In. Yeah, it is our very first musical. It is a favorite of mine that I recently found out that Adam likes. I'd never met another person who watched it independently. So we will be watching the 50s classic, The Happiest Millionaire.
I have been watching that since I was a young lad. That was a go-to movie that I rented as a kid all the time because it's a happy place movie. It is just a pure,
absolutely
happy place movie, and I love everything about it. I went to it when I was sick last summer to keep me happy because I was feeling so miserable while I was sick with pneumonia. So, Happiest Millionaire next week on Drive-In. Thanks everybody being here, chat across both channels. We love you. We thank you. We appreciate your support all the time. If you had a good time, whether here or on Jed's channel watching live, now we're on the re-upload. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Till then, guys, take it easy. Have a good night or day wherever you may be.